Welcome everybody for today's interview. My name is Katrin Hamacher. I'm a clinical psychologist and psychotherapist specializing in systemic family therapy. And I'm the host of this program or project that aims to empower diversity in the education and practice of psychology and psychotherapy. And today, I have a special guest called Wisdom Chinyereugo Ezeonuegbu, and I feel very, very honored to have you here today and to be with you and listen to your perspective about suicidal ideation, terrorism, and substance use. Please, Wisdom, I want to welcome you in Igbo language, Nor, and Dalari, for being with us here today. Please give us some information about yourself, for example, your profession and the areas you're active in, and what are your personal reasons for specializing in mental health.
All right. Like you've already said, I am Wisdom Chinyereugo Ezeonuegbu from Nigeria, Anambra State to be precise, Oga. Okay, I'm a forensic clinician, a psychotherapist, and a researcher. Okay, and my main reason of specializing in this novel area, it is because mental health is something that we tend to, see from a narrow perspective, but it controls much of our lives, ranging from our mental well-being, psychological well-being, emotional well-being, the way we feel, the way we act, and the way we think. So if we handle this area very, very much with enough respect and everything that we need to put in place, I think people will begin to act and feel okay, and we'll have a decent society where people can live together in peace and harmony, and things flows the way it should be. So I enjoy this particular area because we have to go a long way to help people and to build a society where we can live in a nice coherency and peace and harmony and every other thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So, Wisdom, after your introduction, I would be happy to know, where are you practicing and which mental health symptoms are you treating?
Okay, I am a consultant at the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and also a consultant at Divine Hope Medical Therapy Center in Owerri and Anambra, respectively. And I specialize in the area of substance use, where we will treat people who has this issue, substance use disorder, and people who has in one word or other, be victims of crimes like rape and other things, or who are at risk of offending or being an offender in the future, or who has been in that line of behavior, how to treat them, bring them back to normalcy so that they will live their normal life in the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What are the treatment services you offer where you are working, and how can local and international people get access to them or get in touch with you?
Okay. We, like I said, we offer treatments on substance use, people who have substance use disorder. We give, we offer psychotherapy services, therapy services, and people who has issue with mental health as regards to anxiety, as regards to panics, as regards to emotional instabilities, and what may. Okay, so you can get across to us maybe through my email. Then from there we'll take it up. I'm My email address is chinyereugowisdom@gmail.com. You can email me, then we'll see how we'll help you book a section, and we'll see how to direct you to come across. We're in Nigeria, Anambra State, where and we'll see how to direct you to come get your treatment, and you're okay, and you're integrated into the society. Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing your details also. I will also publish them under your interview when I upload it on YouTube. So, which psychotherapeutic approaches are you using in your treatment?
Okay, because we are dealing with substance use, particularly, for instance, based on the problem determines the approach or the psychotherapeutic approach you use. For me, I either use client-centered psychotherapy or RABT, that is rational emotive behavioral therapy. Some people with substance use disorder have this mindset or this irrational thoughts, and they believe in themselves that what they are doing is very, very right. Okay, now in this kind of problem or situation, I normally employ RABT, that is rational emotive behavioral therapy, where you engage them. You have the activating events, you have the belief system, the consequences, and disputation. Activating events, what led to that particular the situation that led to the problem. Now their belief system, and they tend to behave based on the belief system they have about that particular behavior. Okay, and now the consequences there has to do with their emotional response as regards to it. Now you now or me now as a psychotherapist comes in disputation, in the area of dispute, where I dispute such mindsets, and where we talk about it. Okay, you argue it out with them. They bring their perspectives or their idea, their narratives, why they think this is the best life, why they think substance use is the best thing that can ever happen to one, why they think this is actually the exact thing I need to survive in this life. So the disputation is where you as a psychotherapist, or where I come in, and we have that dispute, and we argue it out, and at the end of the day, we'll be able to expose them to so many things that will begin to change their thought processes. Okay, their problem is irrational thoughts. Okay, as a result of that activating event, remember, which has affected their belief system. Okay, so now through this discussion, you will be able to rewrite so many things about the way they think. And once you're able to do it, you begin to get them from the wrong path of thinking or thought processes, or the irrational thoughts, to the rational ones. So the other way around, for the client-centered psychotherapy, now it depends. Now I normally use client-centered when I have problem or issues pertaining crimes, or being victims of rapes, or when trauma, yes. Okay, when you have a traumatized patient or client, or it has been disturbing them. Some of these experiences lie below. It will be disturbing them and it will be affecting their life pattern, their thought processes. Okay, and they will be like, oh, there is no need for me to live again. I think it's time to end my life. They will have that hopeless reason. Now to them, unknowingly to them, it might be operating from beneath. Okay, it might be operating from beneath, but because they've not visited someone who will go to the root of the problem, and that is what client center does. They will, through empathy, understanding the person's emotion, and also verbalizing that emotion to the person, so the person understands that the psychotherapist understands everything that happened, and then they will now journey together to get to the root of the problem. And from there, the patient or the client begins to pick up, and the thought processes and everything begins to change. Because once you get to the root of a problem or what is bothering one or a patient, then you can now start, he or she, by him or herself, will begin to devise some mechanism, coping mechanism to handle the problem by him or herself, because they've known themselves even before you know them. And they, I believe that they have everything. It's inside them, it's ingrained in them, all the coping abilities to face their problem. It's just to get rid of the problem and make them see that this is actually the problem they're facing through. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing your approaches that you use. I understood that you mainly use rational emotive behavior therapy and client-centered therapy. Is it individual sessions that you offer, or do you also work in group sessions?
So yes. You know, there are times that you need to do kind of focus group, okay? You know, where they get to, you bring them together, where they share their experiences and learn from it as well, okay? So, but I normally employ that when I do REBT. I don't use it when I do client-centered, okay? I don't use it when I do client-centered because I feel that there are problems that are more personal, and the client or the patient might want that confidentiality, okay? But when it comes to REBT, because the problem is something that is general, okay? They have the same issue. In research, you say you use snowballing. In research, we call it snowballing. We want to sample such participants, you know, people in the same or purposive sampling, okay? People in the same category, okay, based on the research judgments, okay? Bring them together. They share the experience because they have the same experience and the same thought process, because they believe substance use, for instance, is the best thing that can happen to one. So when they begin to share their experiences and this and that, so they begin to learn, you know. So we bring up negative experiences as a result of substance use, others will learn from it, and some might bring this has happened to me, and from there you key in and work on their psyche. Through that, you can change their thought processes, okay, when they're in group. So that's it. So it's much, me personally, I use REBT, and when I want to do focus group, like group therapy section, I normally use REBT, okay, because most times the people are involved have the same problem, okay, so they share based on experience and they learn by association, just like Evan Pavlov did it. It's a theory of classical conditioning. So learning by association, and you invite it, and so that is it.
All right. Thank you very much. So earlier, I asked you about your personal motivation to specialize in mental health generally. Now, I'm interested to know what encouraged you to choose today's topic of suicidal ideation, terrorism, and substance use.
Okay. You know, looking at these three concepts or constructs, you will see that in our life today or in our environments today, this is what we suffer from, both locally and internationally, okay? Not just in Nigeria, all over the world. You see people committing suicide. You see people, you hear news of terrorism, you hear people, you know, banditry and all that. And you see cases of substance use where people's lives are, you know, are destroyed because they are into one substance. They are addicted to one substance or the other. Okay, so The reason why I chose this particular topic, it's because I'm going to take them one by each. I'm going to look at it one by each. So let's start with suicidal ideation. Let's start with suicidal ideation. Now, suicide has to do with when one conceives to take or takes his or her life. Okay, now the ideation is when one thinks of, conceives, or perceives things that are not okay with him, and the next thing is to just end the life, and and everything is just gone, and that's it. Okay, now the question is, why would people want to take their lives? Why would people want to kill themselves? Why would people want to end everything they've suffered for? Living for 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, and the next thing that comes to your mind is, I just want to kill myself. Why? These are questions we don't ask ourselves. It is an irrational thought. And there are so many things that leads to this. There are so many things. People go through depression, anxiety, hardship, poverty, unemployment. All these things are risk factors to suicidal ideation, even domestic violence. Domestic violence and substance use. All these are risk factors to suicidal ideation. Okay, you see a married woman, thinking of ending her life because the marriage is no longer working, and this and that. It affects their emotion. Once there is poor emotional stability, now this thought process begins to come in place. Once there is emotional instability, it begins to come in. And you don't just wake up and begin to have emotional instability. There are so many activating events to it, which includes this domestic violence, which includes the substance use behavior. Okay? Now, when one suffers all this kind of victimization, okay, when one suffers like domestic violence, getting battered, getting beaten, sometimes we think domestic violence is all about physically molesting or beating your wife, or beating your husband. Or no, there are words you say to your wife, there are words you say to your husband, your children. They are domestic violence, and the next thing they'll begin to think that they are not worth it again, that this life is not worth it again, and what am I doing? They begin to have this low self-esteem about themselves, this low self-efficacy. I can't do it. Why did I enter into this marriage in the first place? And with this kind of thoughts, the person begins to sink, and depression begins to come. So, but if we into mental health begin to do our works very well, that we stigmatize people on why it is not okay, why it's not good, why it's not right to engage in domestic violence, and also expose people to dangers of this domestic violence, both the psychological effects, both the physical effects, both the emotional effects, then you will see that we reduce the rate of suicidal ideation barely to the minimum. Okay, so, and it doesn't end with our homes, even our workplaces. The way we as an employer talk to employees, they are all human beings. We are all human beings. Everybody's, and we have this emotion. Okay, and when you talk to an employee that maybe you've done this thing wrong, and you're this, you're worthless, and all those things, those kind of works goes deep into the person, and the person begins to think about it, and the person begins to see him or herself as somebody who is not efficacious enough to do things, and low self-esteem begins to set in, and then depression comes in. Why? am I like this? Why can't I do this? Why am I not like others? And that is why you see people, once they'll just leave the office, jump from the highest floor of the building, or you see people, clinging to a transformer just to kill themselves. It didn't just start in a day. Now, substance use is one of the major risk factors to suicidal ideation. I will explain. There are substances that when these people or people who have completed suicide or who has a suicidal ideation take, when it gets to the brain, okay, it destroys the part of the brain that controls cognition. It goes to the limbic system, destroys the limbic system and the executive functioning of the limbic system, where one will have to reason well. Okay? The person does not think, articulate well. Now, the next thing is, they don't know where they are again. They don't think straight again. The next thing is, even if they are to jump from it, they don't know. This is what substance use does. I just want to die. I just I'm okay with life. I just want to. Now they are being influenced by the substance they've taken. They are acting as a result of the influence from the substance they've taken or they've abused. Okay, recently, let me use cannabis, a species of cannabis called Colorado. You see young boys, they will take this. Colorado is a species of cannabis. Okay, that's tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. Okay, it's a substance that people abuse. They either smoke it, they either put it in the food, or now when people take this, it goes to the brain and excites these neurotransmitters, and they will begin to rush in excess, and the person begins to act without control, without reasoning, without control. Okay, at this point, the person begins to think, I just want to end it. I just want to leave me. And you see videos online where people want to pour cold water on themselves. People want to just run to the express road, to get hit by a car. When people will they are being controlled by the substance. They are no longer in control of themselves. That is why I call substance use the big-headed monster. Because once it gets to the brain, it excites the neurotransmitters, and they will begin to work in excess. We will say come to that. And the people now begin to act. The people that have abused that substance will begin to act out of control. And in the process, the idea of let me just kill myself. I'm not understanding anything again. And the next thing you see, they've committed suicide. Now, coming to the terrorism. Terrorism is another problem we have in our world today. Go to Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nigeria, Iraq, Iran, all these countries, you see a high level of terrorism as it has been ranked in the World Review. Okay. Now, why the terrorist acts? I want to approach this terrorism from two angles. One, from the angle of the effect of terrorism towards substance use, and what substance use will do towards terrorism or an act of terrorism. Okay. Now, let me start with how substance use encourages terrorism. Most of the arms, ammunition that are used in terrorism and all these things. They acquire them. Have you asked yourself the question of where do they get such money to acquire this thing? Most of the funding comes from drug trafficking. Drug trafficking. So when they sell drugs, push substances, and the rest of them, and they get the money, and now that's an angle, an aspect. Now the second aspect is, have you often asked yourself this question? What gives them this? What gives them this boldness to take another person's life without thinking of, what might happen to them or the consequences, or even having that atom of empathy in them? No atom of empathy, that you keep one and kill one, you commit, you come to a community, and take as many as people, abduct as many as people as many as possible, children, women, and you don't care. I will tell you the role of substance use towards that. Now, there is a part of the brain called amygdala. The amygdala controls emotions. Okay? Now, what these substances do is when they take it, that is why they always want to take substances, because they take some certain actions. Okay? Now, when they take these substances, it will go to the brain, it will hamper or destroy the activity of the amygdala, okay, that controls emotion. Now, when the amygdala stops functioning very well, then it means the person has no emotion. Okay? The part of the brain, once this part of the brain is hampered, then it means the emotion now is now put to stop. The person does not feel again. Okay? The person does not see what you see. The person does not feel what you feel. What is in the person's head is how to get this done and get over with it. Okay? Now, coming to the other aspect of it, which is the effect of terrorism on the people. Now, women, children, or even men who have experienced this terrorist acts, or who have been in an environment where people have been killed, abducted, or all these things, we'll talk about the trauma. The children at 5, 6, 4, 7, 8, watching their father, the mother in cold blood. And that is what we do as forensic clinicians. Those children, they will still grow and they will still integrate into the society with such traumatic experience. Okay? And they will live with such trauma. And they will live with such experience, with such history. And they will grow with it. And tomorrow, when they begin to act, when they begin to do some certain things, when they begin to, the question of how did this person grow? What happened? As a forensic clinician, I do profiling. Okay? So most of these people, when you trace them, trace their history, you see that in one occasion or the other, they've been victims of either rape as a result of terrorism, they're forced to marry as a result of terrorism, they were forced to see their loved ones murdered in cold blood. Okay? And at some point, they would devise a means to manage their frustration. And the next thing to do is they will now want to do some drugs, so that they take the drug, the effect from the drug as a sucker, okay, to manage their frustration. I can't take this, and whenever I want to, let me just take this. whenever they remember that if all those incidents and the trauma and everything, they want to go, I don't want to think about this. They will get one substance or the other just to make them forget all these things. Okay? So terrorism, to a great extent, affects individuals. It affects our society. Okay? A professor of terrorism, Chinyereugo, okay, in one of his studies, he measured terrorism cognition. He measured cultural orientation to terrorism cognition. Okay, he tested how culture, the orientation one gets from the cultural background, value system, and the rest of them affects his thought processes about terrorism. Now look at what is happening. When you check our environment, though in his finding, he found that the cultural orientation predicts or influences these processes, this terrorism cognition. Okay, and when you see it, when you look at it from a broad perspective, you see that most times these people don't just recruit. Okay, they train, they bring them up from why they are still small. Okay, they imbibe that value system in them and they grow with it. Okay, they grow with it and and begin to practice what they've learned, the orientation and everything. Okay, and the other way around, when people who have experienced or who have been victims of terrorism, when they grow up, because their culture or the orientation is that while we are growing up, these people attacked us, these people abducted us, is not minding that these bandits are a particular set of people that are fighting for something or whatsoever. But they will now narrow it down to the particular set of people, the particular community are involved in that process, not minding the specific group. Not minding the specific group. Okay, now because of that cultural orientation, they grow with it. Okay, and so that's part of the reason why terrorism is something that we need to look into the effect, the traumatic effect. The people, when you go to IDP camps, you will cry. You go to IDP camps, that's the camps where internal displaced persons are kept, people who have experienced this problem are kept, and they are, to manage life and bring them back to normalcy. You will see them, you will see how shattered they are, and you begin to, you begin to, put yourself in their shoes, okay, and see what terrorism does to our society. Living well with your family, and in the next minute, in the next hour, you don't have a home again. So that's why we need to work as mental health practitioners. We need to work on these people who has been traumatized by these events, and also try to create awareness, for the ones, for our youth, for the ones who will still be recruited into such process. And it's not a good one. Seeing the after effects already. It's all over the world. It's eating deep. Okay? But the problem is not just the terrorism, but the emotional torture on the people who have experienced this problem. Okay? All right. So now coming to the last one, substance use. Okay, I have already talked about it as regards to suicidal ideation and terrorism. Okay. Now, looking at substance use, I will explain the processes or the process involved in substance use. Now, there is something wrong with substance use, knowing the substance. You know, the disorder comes in when there is dependency on it. Okay. Now, the reason why I still see substance use as a problem, aside the disorder, it is because there are some substances that people use that are not supposed to use that are gateway drugs. Somebody who is addicted to cannabis, for instance, or to crack cocaine, for instance, started from somewhere. Maybe the person started from as little as cigarettes, okay, and cigarette is a gateway drug, and they tried it once. It's substance use. Some people will not have problem with it. It's substance use, but the problem is after that particular experience, what follows next? Because you've opened the door for the addiction. That is why I still see it as a problem, and I talked about substance use. Okay. Now, looking at substance use, when people, most times, the reason why people use substances, it's because, one, they were influenced by parents who are into it. Secondly, they want to get high. Third, the availability of such substance. Okay, and so many other things. Okay, now the process involved in addiction is this: when they take, for instance, cigarettes, cannabis, methamphetamine, or crack cocaine, heroin, opioids, and that stuff. Now, this is the process that involved in substance use disorder. I've explained the substance use. Now we are now talking about the disorder now, where the person is now dependent on it, that the drug now has taken control over the person. Now, the brain is designed in a way, okay? The brain is designed in a way that, or is constructed in a way that when you give it what it feels you like, it begins to ask for it over and over again, and we call it reward system. B.F. Skinner, his theory of operant condition, he talked about the reward system. And when the brain sees whatever you give yourself or whatever you get what it feels you like, it begins to ask for it. Okay. Now, as regards to substance use, there is a part of the brain called the basal ganglia, okay, which has the ventral striatum and dorsal striatum. Okay, the dorsal striatum controls the movements, while the ventral striatum controls motivation and reward. What motivates you? Okay, now the addiction process is this: what happens in the brain is that what explains urge is when they take these substances, okay, it gives them that euphoria effect for some minutes and it expires. Now the brain has coded it that this person likes this. Now there is this chemical called the dopamine in the brain. The release of the dopamine into the ventral striatum is what controls addiction. Okay, the release of dopamine into the ventral striatum is what controls addiction. So when one begins to have urge, it means the brain is asking for that thing. It feels you enjoy as a result of the release of the dopamine into the ventral striatum. Okay, now that's for some substance use. And this particular addiction process varies depending on the substance. There are substances that you will take, it will increase the neurotransmitter, the activities of the neurotransmitters, the excitation, and they will begin to release these chemicals. Normally, the brain releases these chemicals normally at the normal rate that you need them for proper functioning and cognitive functioning. Okay, it releases them the normal dosage you need it, and at the time it's needed. What these drugs do, for instance, the cannabis, it's because they mimic these substances, they mimic these hormones, these chemicals. Okay, they have the same effect. So when they come, they will begin to trigger, they will begin to excite these neurons, and they will begin to fire, and these hormones begin to drop in excess. Okay, for instance, methamphetamine. Let's use methamphetamine, crystal meth, for instance. When people do crystal meth, it releases these hormones, these chemicals, neurochemicals, neurobiological chemicals in the brain. The dopamine, the epinephrine, the norepinephrine, the acetylcholine. Okay, and when they are in a rush, the person begins to hallucinate, and most times it takes sleep off the person's eye, and that's why most of the people who are into cybercrime use methamphetamine. They drop methamphetamine. It takes away the sleep of their eyes. Okay, now when these chemicals are in a rush, the person begins to see things, hear things that he's not supposed to hear, see things he's not supposed to see, and the rest of them. Okay, and most times these people don't know they are out of control and they need help. At this particular time, they can do anything possible because they are not in their right senses and feel they are okay and there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, I once posted a video. I was, I think, a few days ago on a group platform about a guy who murdered the mother. And when he was interviewed, he said that he's not afraid to die, he wants to die himself. That he even wants to die. He doesn't care if he lives or that, he wants to die. Okay? So if these are what substances does, okay, now the person abuses drugs, substances, and goes to the brain because of the addiction processes. It demands for it and over again, and because it's not good for the brain, these hormones are being secreted and gives this person different, gives this the user different thought processes, that brings a lot of negative consequences, and they do it without thinking about anything. That's substance use for you. The same thing is applicable to cannabis, because now they have, apart from the natural cannabis, they have the natural THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. They have the loud, they have the SK, they have Colorado. These ones they add some things to it. Okay, they add some synthetic materials to it, to enhance the effect on the brain more than what the normal THC does. And you could imagine the effect on the person. That's when you see videos online, you see people shouting and saying, "Oh, I'm this, I'm this one," and it will be as a result of effect from drug or substance. Okay, so when we begin to manage these problems, this disorder, you will see that people begin to live their normal life. People will begin to think well. People will begin their empathic network will begin to function well. Okay? And they will live not for them, but they will live for others. And the society will be a better place for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this, this knowledge, all this knowledge that you also gained from your research, I guess. Thank you very much for sharing. There were some thoughts that came up while you were presenting. One thing was something that I wanted to share is like, I also, when I work in Germany and I practice there as a psychotherapist, I also see like suicidal ideation is like also a topic. Sometimes there's not much being talked about, you know? So I really appreciate that you also try to destigmatize it somehow by talking about it today. And I also think that if someone expresses suicidal ideations, they have a big package that they are carrying somehow, like many experiences, as you said, right?
Yeah.
And it's also about understanding what brings a person to this point of life in which the person doesn't see another alternative than killing him or herself, or so that was one thought. Then the other one was also to understand that also to use or abuse substances is also a form of coping for many people when stress is getting too much, like for example, due to terrorism, you know, or due to maybe also unbearable pictures they sometimes have due to traumata, right? How people also use them in order to cope with something, right? And then also another thought that we had was concerning terrorism, that, you know, somehow, as you said, at a time in which we have to consider terrorism internationally, right? I was thinking of especially Germany, where we are living in a very multicultural society, and we also have to consider that sometimes loved ones of our clients are living in areas where terrorism is maybe more present than in Germany, you know? How it also influences indirectly, right, other family members by being worried, seeing their people being encountered to very heavy events of terrorism, and that this also should be a thing we need to consider, especially in Germany as well. So thank you very much for mentioning those topics, and also explaining the interconnectedness of this, or the interaction of these topics. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
What I just wanted to say is also like, and what you also emphasized, to try to understand, right? Not only us as psychotherapists or the individual, but also the systems around individuals, to understand what are contributing factors or factors that contribute to, as you said, suicidal ideations, substance use, and also terrorism, and what individuals, professionals, and also systems can do, like the community or the society people live in order to contribute to a better or improved health and mental health for people who are facing it. I'd like to ask you my next question. How do you identify suicidal ideation in clients, and how do you help them to deal with it?
Okay, all right. I would have loved to answer from, I think I had something about how people use substances to cope. From the last question you asked before the network, I think maybe the network was fluctuating. Okay, so I want to say something about it. People using substance use as a coping mechanism to the problem, like terrorism, and how people who have loved ones in this area where terrorism affected area. I think I heard something like that from you. Question like that from you.
What's not a question? It was more a thought that I shared.
Okay. All right.
Of course, if you want to comment on it or something, please.
Okay.
Many more questions, but if you say you want to.
Okay. All right. Okay. No, what I actually wanted to say was, the people using things like substance use to manage their frustration. I just wanted to say that's the wrong thing to do, and they compound the problem. When you don't manage a problem with a problem. When you manage a problem with a problem, you end up creating more problem. Yeah, and that is why they do it, and they end up getting addicted to it. They are addicted to it, their health is deteriorating, and they cannot articulate well. So, as a result of managing your problem, okay, then you are creating more problem, and at the end of the day, you are losing your life. That was why I said it means managing a problem with a problem, and then creating more problem for yourself. Okay, so the best thing the person should do is to seek help and seek support, okay, from a trained psychotherapist, and patiently wait or patiently go through this section, and I believe it will come out with positive results and outcome, instead of using things like substance use to manage such frustration and such problem, because it will end up creating more problem. So that's for that. Okay, that's the
Can I something for this? Yeah. I just want to add, this would of course be the ideal somehow way, right, to get the assistance and to seek out for it. Unfortunately, sometimes not everywhere people have access to the support or the services, right? Yeah. So sometimes I think what I learned from my practice also, that I said, okay, I understand a person that sometimes tries to use substances to cope with distress, because it's very effective as well, right? It brings short-term effects but long-term is so difficult. It's difficult, right? Yes. To acknowledge somehow when a person uses it as their try to cope with something and their strategy of solution, and then assist the person to find an alternative, so they have a more constructive or a healthier alternative strategy that can help them now to continue coping with stress or trauma in a healthier way. Me as a psychotherapist, when I see a person come in, appreciate the strategies they tried to cope with something and that might have been accessible for them, and then assist them in finding more healthier and more constructive strategy in order to cope with stress caused from trauma, terrorism, or whatever. Yes, that was just a summary.
Okay. Could you repeat the question, the last question you asked?
Okay, my last question was like, how do you identify suicidal ideation in your clients, and how do you help them to deal with it?
Okay. Number one, to identify suicidal ideation in a client or a patient, you have to be close with them. You have to be close to them and close with them. The reason why I say close with them is to discuss at length so many things, because it is from these discussions that you will see the tendencies for suicidal ideation or committing suicide or completing suicide. Okay, so it is when you discuss with them, you will see signs of depression from the way they speak. Okay, they will sound so down, and they will give you the impression that they are hopeless, and truly they are, because that's what they feel. Okay, from the communication, you could see it, you will see it. Okay, and they will tell you that what they want for them is just to end it, and that is it. Okay, you can only know this, or you can only get to know this when you discuss with them, when you engage them in discussions, when you engage, conversations with them and the rest of them, and they will open up with you how they feel. And you remember, I talked about client-centered, okay, where you show them that you really understand, and truly you do, that you really understand how they feel, and really you do understand, and also giving them that confidentiality, okay, giving them that ethical consideration and confidentiality, so that they can share everything with you, and you keep it to yourself, and to yourself and with you. Okay, and through this process, you know that you dictate that they are really going through a lot, and the next thing that is coming is suicide. Okay, and so it is through this conversation that you will see anxiety. It is through these conversations that you will see depression. It is through these conversations that you see all sorts of things, like so low self-esteem and the way they feel. Okay, and then you now, as a psychotherapist, bring in your techniques to help them come out of such problem and cut that thought process of suicide.
Thank you.
That's it.
So I was also interested to know which forms of terrorism or groups of terrorism are you investigating on?
All right, okay. Like I said earlier, in Nigeria, for instance, there are terrorist groups and there are terrorist acts. Okay, now I am looking at the effects of terrorism. Okay, the effects of terrorism on the people and how to help them come out of such trauma they've faced or they've experienced. Okay, not just the terrorism or like how to battle terrorism and the rest. Okay, but looking at the effect of terrorist or terrorism and the act of terrorism on the people, like these people in the IDP camps, and other displaced persons in the IDP camps, you know, the effects, the psychological effects on their well-being, the emotional effects, you know, dealing with the trauma and everything. That is what we are looking at. Their perception towards those terrorists, this act of terrorism, and how it might possibly turn them into offenders in the near future. Okay, like I said, most of the criminals or people with criminal behavior or people who are into crimes or this, when you check their profile, you will see that in one time or the other, they were victims of terrorism. Okay, so working on the effects of this act of terrorism on them is what I always want to do, and it's what I am doing. Thank you
So,
very much.
which forms of terrorism, sorry for interrupting, which forms of terrorism, like, or which kind of groups are operating in, you were now talking about Nigeria. What should people know? Which kind of terrorism or groups of terrorism?
Okay. In Nigeria, we have the herdsmen, okay? We have the unknown gunmen, okay? All these are terrorist groups. Okay, we have the the Boko Haram. Well, these are groups, terrorist groups, okay? And now, like I said, they are terrorist groups. Maybe they want or they need something, they have political ideation or idea, or you know what they want to get, or but our duty or my duty and what I've always wanted to do are the people suffering or at the end or the suffering end of this act of terrorism, the effects on their lives is what I always want to manage and to treat, assess them, and treat them. Okay, so that when they integrate into the society, they will not create more harm to the society. Okay, based on the past experience of what they've been through as a result of the act of terrorism.
Thank you very much for sharing your focus of your research. Thank you. All right. So you also already shared some substances that are used or that you also investigate on. I wanted to ask, to what extent are these topics like suicidal ideation, substance use, and terrorism stigmatized or a taboo in your society?
Okay.
Or
Okay.
society that you are living in?
Okay. Well, when one, okay, for instance, let me use substance use. Okay, after the treatment of a patient or a client from substance use, getting back to the family or to the society, you will see that they don't trust the person again. No trust. Okay, they will still see the person as such person that abuses drugs and cannot be entrusted with anything, and they don't want to do anything with the person. Same thing with somebody with suicidal ideation or somebody who has attempted suicide. Okay, that's the level of stigmatization. They will see you as very, they will see the person as somebody who is bad, who has committed a very big crime that nobody wants to associate with the person again. And it's a bad, very, very, because of the behavior that was exhibited by the person. That's the stigmatization. Now, to destigmatize this concept, okay, substance use, suicide, act of terrorism and the rest of them. And we do create awareness. Okay, for instance, there's something we'll do on June 12th. We call it drug awareness program. Okay, where we will create awareness about substance use, drug use, and we do quiz competition. Skills will come. In the process, we are destigmatizing, we are creating awareness, and we are telling people that these people are people actually who needs, these people are people who really need help. Okay, they really need help and should be helped. All right. Okay, I will have to show you some things, some things that so you understand better. Okay, this, see, don't punish drug users. Okay, provide. Okay, you see,
provide your help.
Okay, and you see all this. You see, drug use comes with risks. Be aware of the dangers. Okay, then here, a message of hope. Drug use disorders are preventable and treatable. Okay, so when people understand this, and that this problem, including substance use and people who have been into the act of terrorism and all that they could actually repent, get treated, their thought processes, irrational thoughts changed successfully and reintegrated into the society, that they will do well. What they need is a helping hand and the support. Okay, so now when we get to know this, that's the awareness, and through this we are destigmatizing the society that drug use, substance use, being having the thought of suicide, or being with someone who has attempted suicide, or who was in the act of terrorism, doesn't mean that they are devil, or they are evil, or what they actually did was help. And when you successfully help them out of it, they can be better people in the society and achieve great things. And Einstein once said, and the monotony and the solitude of a quiet life stimulates a creative mind. Okay, now the problem they have mostly is when they are alone on their own, that solitude stage, they begin to see, they will think about things, both negative, both when you are able to get them out of these things, those thought processes, those negative ideas, those negative activities, and give them a better life, they will reintegrate into the society and become a better person. And the bad stigmatization, everything will stop. The stigmatization, people will get to know that it is not the end, and these are actually people who are good, and they can actually do well, and the society can actually benefit positively from them. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wisdom. Thank you. Apart from the awareness programs that you conduct, and also the services of treatment you offer, what else do you think should be done to contribute to the destigmatization?
Okay. The late Michael Jackson, a hip hop singer, a pop singer, in one of his songs, termed "Heal the World." Heal the world. In the lyrics, he says, "Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race." Okay, the only way we could do this is to lend a hand. Lend a hand. You are a psychotherapist, you're based in Germany, Okay, me, I am based in Nigeria. If we in our different areas, different professions, and lend our hands, it will go to to a great extent help in the destigmatization of this problem. So what I think we should do again is to lend a hand in whatever we're doing. Your whatever your area of specialization, okay, internal medicine, nursing, pharmacy, psychotherapy, psychologist, lawyer, all these things lend a hand. Okay, we will begin to lend a hand, and they can come out, speak with people, and we, from our own end, talk to people that these people are not literate enough to understand this, that this actually is not the end of the world for these people, that actually they can be treated and integrated into the society as a better person or better people. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So you already give recommendations of what can individuals do, and also we as in communities and societies. Thank you.
Okay.
So, okay, we also talked a bit about what can international colleagues, or what should they consider concerning these topics. What do you think would be important also for colleagues outside to know internationally?
Okay. Okay. All right. For me, I want everybody, because there are people researchers in the area of suicidal ideation, the researchers in the area of terrorism, the researchers in the area of substance use. Okay, all right. I want each and every one of us to understand and to know that we still have works to do. There are so many factors. There are so many factors that could predict suicidal ideation. There are so many factors that could predict terrorism, an act of terrorism, and even the fear of terrorism. And also there are factors that could predict substance use. And most of these factors has not been explored. We have works to do there. We have works to do there. So when we come together, we can do works, get participants, get sample, collect our data, and do more research in these areas, and look at problems, other problems. Domestic violence, Wall Street, people's perception about this, all these things, we can measure them. Even the environment, the health, we can measure them and bring out more findings that will help the society at large and the international community, so that we can curb the rate of suicidal ideation in the world. Okay? I mean, Nigeria is not, according to the World Review, is not ranked first in terms of suicidal ideation or suicidal attempts. It's not second, third. Okay, there you have Russia, you have South Africa, you have Lithuania. Okay, we have researchers there. Okay, and we still have people suffering from people, having thoughts of suicide and suicidal ideation. What are the factors that are leading to these things? What are the factors that are causing? What are the causal factors to this suicidal ideation? We've not explored them. We have works to do. Same thing with terrorism. We have researchers in Afghanistan. We have researchers in Pakistan. Okay, we could do works. Substance use. We have researchers in Mexico. Okay, we have researchers in Brazil, Colombia. Okay, and even in Europe, in the US. So we can come out in Germany. We can come out, do studies, and get findings explore these things and look at factors that could cause factors to these problems and how to help people come out from these problems. Thank you very much.
I reached my hand to you digitally. Thank you very much for your perspective and also your encouraging words. So now I would like to ask you, Wisdom, why do you think it is important to exchange perspectives on mental health and related topics?
Okay. It's very, very important. I believe there are participants in this live interview now that have learned so many things they've not known before. So without this kind of interview and this exchange perspective, they wouldn't get to know all these things. Okay? So it's very, very important that we do this kind of thing, exchange perspective, learn from each other, get new ideas from people's findings, okay, and studies, so that we will add to our own knowledge base and also expand our world of knowledge, okay, and help the world to become a better place and a better society for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Katarina. Thank you. So, I have two more questions. The next one is, suppose a miracle happens and one thing about mental health or mental health care and services would change for the better. How would you recognize that this miracle happened? Which change would you see?
That would be awesome. At least we could see empathy in every human being. We could see empathy. So the only miracle I want to happen is empathy. If each and every one of us have empathy, we won't have a society that is embattled with terrorism. We will have a society that is embattled with suicidal attempts, ideation, and completed suicide. Because people want to lend a helping hand because they understand they are fellow humans and feel what they feel and wants to help them. So the greatest miracle I want to happen is empathy. Empathy. I'll continue to say it's empathy. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. Okay, last but not least, my question is, what else would you like to share, and maybe what's your take-home message from today?
Okay. You know, my mentors, they always tell you. My mentors like Professor Madu, Sylvester Antosuku, and Dr. Charles Okonkwo. When the problem is half shared or problem shared is solved. I won't say half solved, but it's solved. The reason why people die in agony and then suffer their problem and die in it is because they don't speak out. And they believe once they speak out, you know, the world will know their story, and you know, the person you are talking to will sell you out, and the rest of them, which is not supposed to be. And it's keeping them in their shell. And with time, it will sink them down and nesting them into depression. Then anxiety will take over, and the rest of them, and next thing they will begin to think of committing suicide, and the rest of them. Okay, but when they come out and say, this is a problem, this is my problem, please, how do I go about this? This is how we started, and you know, we go through that path and that link together. I will help them out. Then I will see this, take this from me. Two things changes behavior. Take this from wisdom. Chinyereugowisdom. Two things changes behavior. When you open your mind, an open mind and a broken heart. An open mind and a broken heart. When your mind is opened, you discuss the problem and you are settled and you are relieved. When your heart is broken, the behavior, the thought process, everything will start going down. So I will encourage you to have an open mind. Okay? And seek support, seek help. So get out of that problem and be yourself. Thank you very much.
Dallarina, thank you. Wisdom. Thank you so much. I would like to use the time in the meantime to say a big thank you, Dallarina, for the time you spent with us, for the knowledge you shared, for your perspective that you shared on this topic, on suicidal ideation, substance use, and terrorism. And yeah, Professor Madhu, that you mentioned just a few minutes ago, is actually the one who, through which we connected and met. And I heard that you also did your bachelor first class. So I know you are on your PhD. And I just wanted to express my respect and appreciation and gratitude for the passion about psychology and psychotherapy, and your passion about contributing to make this world a better place, and for being with us, for participating in this project. I also want to use the time to also thank you for you as the people who joined us for the interview, for being with us, for your interest, for your reactions. I also would like to thank you for your patience, because we had some difficulties with the network. Thank you very much for being with us this time for this interview. If you have a question afterwards, feel free to reach out to me or to Wisdom. It would be a pleasure if you like to subscribe to this channel, if you like the videos, if you share them with people who are also interested in diverse perspectives on mental health and related topics, and to spread also the messages of where people can get different access to different health care services, especially mental health care services. So it would be a pleasure if you like to check it out and support the project in one way or the other. If you also know someone who might be interested to participate, feel free to connect me to this person. I would be grateful and happy. Is there anything you would like to share before we close for today?
Oh, okay. I'm so happy, and I want to thank everybody that participated in the interview. I hope you learned a lot, and it's not just learning. You know, you have people out there and who might want to learn one or two things about what you've actually acquired today through the course of this interview. Okay, you can lend a hand through sharing the video and letting other people see and to learn and to help others, because if you don't have such problem, a friend of yours might be going through such problem. I wouldn't know where to get the support or to get the help. So when you do the right thing, you know, by sharing the knowledge you've gained from this interview, you might be saving a life. You wouldn't know, you might be saving a life. So thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank Thank you, Wisdom. God bless you too. And I will also share the contact details, links to your work, if you like, underneath the video when I publish it on my YouTube channel, so that you not only have the insights from your perspective that you presented, but also you can follow up or read more if you like, and share the message to other people. All right. Then, Dana Marina, once again, and I wish you and everyone out there a very lovely evening. Thank you very much for participating. So stay tuned and have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye.